I want to welcome everybody online, and we'll welcome all of our campuses. And then I also want to welcome all of our ladies that are at our Women's Getaway conference. And so we're super excited. Yeah, let's hear it for them. Awesome. Ladies, we just want to say this. We are super excited that you guys get to get away. One thing we are doing is praying for your kids that they survive while you're gone. But we also just want you to know how thankful, how grateful we are just for your servanthood at this church, but really for your leadership at this church. And so we are super grateful. And if you're a guest that has just shown up at Getaway for the first time and haven't been here, man, we would love to have you come and check us out here at Central and see what we do and create some relationships and just grow together. And so, ladies, it's great to have you guys with us again today. I want to do one thing before we jump into our series on Nehemiah, and that's just kind of have a little bit of family moment. It's a positive thing, and just put a little bit of a wrap on something we've been doing for the last couple years. Last couple years, if you've been here, we had an initiative, you could call it a campaign, where there was just some vision things that we were doing and leading toward over the last 2 years. We called the campaign our All In campaign. And just a lot of vision that was cast about 2 years ago about some things that we wanted to accomplish, some ministry things, also some building things. And I just want to say, as that 2 years is coming to a close, I just want to say to everyone who was involved in that, you may be new and weren't involved with it, but if you in any way committed and then gave toward our All In campaign, I just want to say words cannot express how grateful we are as a church for your generosity and for your jumping in. And let me just tell you, as you jumped in, let me just give you a few things that we've been able to accomplish over the last 2 years together. First, we were able through your generosity to spend about $170,000 on scholarships for kids to go to camp. What that equates to, What that equates to is we sent about 2,200 kids over the last 2 years to camp, and 800 of those would not have been able to go to camp and have the experience they did without you scholarshiping them. So thank you for your generosity. Second thing, we launched special needs programs at 4 of our campuses during our services. So they didn't have that. One of our campuses did. 4 of our campuses, we were able to launch our special needs ministry at those campuses. We started a Celebrate Recovery program, where people can find community and find help with their hurts, habits, and hangups. And that has just been an incredible program, literally life-saving for some people. We supported single moms and their families. We were able to serve over 2,400 unhoused guests into one of our programs, and serve 4,200 meals at our men's shelter. We were able to build a new kids facility that we opened up this last August for our kids at our Mesa campus, which if you've not seen it, guys, it is fantastic. It is beautiful. And our children's ministry at our Mesa campus has just begun to grow. And what we're in the middle of right now is we are redoing the auditorium and the lobby spaces there at Mesa. And right now the place is torn up inside. And we are working through, and we are excited about what that's gonna look like and what's gonna happen. It's gonna be fantastic. And then we kicked off a new partnership with our Missions of Hope International, the team we've been talking about in Kenya. And that's just like a small portion of the list of what you guys have been able to accomplish. So I just wanna say thank you for leaning in to All In for these 2 years, and All In was for a season. Okay, and so as we talk about that name, All In, that's gonna kind of go away. We've talked about our All In Ministry Fund, and what we're shifting to the language of an impact fund. And so if you give here at Central and you go online, what you'll see is instead of All In, what you'll see is impact. You'll see our impact fund. And so that's kind of a change in the name we're doing, because when ministry happens, All In was for a season, impact is every single day. It's what we do through our generosity. And so I wanna encourage you, if you've not been giving here at Central, but you call Central home, man, let's jump in. That's one of the things we do. Our value, Jesus first. We put Jesus first in every area of our life, even our finances. And what we do is we jump in and we give for the sake of those who aren't here yet to make an impact in their lives. And so I wanna encourage you to do that, jump in with us, but wanted to let you know kind of about that change, and also just, man, super grateful and excited about what we've been able to do, and excited about the future of what we're going to do, all of us together. I want you to get to Nehemiah chapter 4. Here's a question as we begin. Nehemiah chapter 4, have you ever tried to make a positive change in your life, a needed change, and all you felt at every single turn was resistance? Like it could be a big change, it could be a small change, but it was something that needed to happen in your life. So you stepped in, you tried to make a change, and all you ran into was resistance. This last week, I went on a trip, a vision trip to Kenya. And it was a big deal trip. We had been there in September. We've talked about this new partnership we have with Missions of Hope International. And it was a great trip in September that I went on and kind of talked with our people here. And we looked at the ministry and the mission there. And we decided, man, we're all in on this because God's doing some great things and we want to be involved with it. Well, while we were there was a school that was called NIO. It's in Nairobi. And it's just an awesome school. Like you go into this place, you can see a picture of NIO, and let's see if that picture will come up. This is the picture of the group that I just went with on this trip. You go to the next slide, and you'll see this is the school, NIO. Now, that school right there is kind of a rented space. We showed up with our team in September. We walked into this place, and this place, the classrooms are the tiniest thing you've ever seen. It's a leased space, so it's not their own space. Classrooms are small, kids are packed in. You can see that it's just kind of these metal shanties that they do this school in. So our team shows up, and we just have this huge heart for it, but for some reasons, the size of the project and the scope of the project and what we were looking to do, it just wasn't probably a right fit for us. And so we left, and man, our hearts were just like torn up for this NIO school. And so Missions of Hope said this. They said, you know what, if you have some friends in the US that would like to partner with us and would be interested in something like NIO, we would pay for you to come back and bring some friends with you to see about the partnership. So I brought that group of people back. We show up, we go to NIO, and so the trip was to see NIO, see about the opportunity to partnership, and so I brought 3 churches from the US, and we got to see this opportunity. They have land that they have an opportunity to build a new school on. So this is the land, and this is what they're going to build right there. So you can see a total difference in the shanties where the school meets, and they've got about 800 kids that meet in that location to building an opportunity like this for them. So that was what I was bringing these people over for. Then what we're gonna do is partway through the trip, we're gonna leave Kenya and we're gonna go up to Ethiopia, which interesting enough, Ethiopia, 1996, the communist government there fell. So it was a communist country up till then. You go from 1996 on, basically some of the influences of all of the government regulation and oversight from the communist government kind of stayed the same. So it's not a communist government anymore, but the red tape and so much, it's just crazy, which means that places like Mohi have not been allowed to start Christian schools in Ethiopia. Well, there was a connection that was made, and Missions of Hope is the first school of its kind to be invited into Ethiopia to work with these kids. So we were in Addis. We flew into this town called Addis. It's not just a town, it's a massive city. It's 10 million people. If you go to Nairobi, man, the air quality is terrible. Cleanliness, trash, all that, it's pretty rough. You go to Addis, it's beautiful. Like it is a beautiful modern city, absolutely clean. And then in the middle of this city, there is a landfill, there's a dump. And you can see a picture of this dump. Those shanties right there is where hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and children live. They live in those shanties in the dump, and you can see some of the kids and just the pictures, beautiful children, beautiful kids. And what Missions of Hope has come in and done is they've actually started a school. They've been the first place that's been allowed to start a school that does education, does religion, and does humanitarian work. And so what was the opportunity is we were gonna look at the Nairobi opportunity, but then we go to Ethiopia, and Ethiopia, they were going to meet with some of the government officials, and what they had said was, Shan, when you come, if we could take your group up there, these people can look at and see if they want to partner with Ethiopia, but they also, what we need you guys to do is be in the room, because that's gonna mean a whole lot to the government officials and to the national church officials and all of that. If we have Americans with us, it just gives more credence to what we're doing. And so I walk into these rooms with them, with all of these government officials, and Marion Wallace, the missionaries, would say, Shan, come sit right here, come sit right here. And I'm like, oh, this is a really big deal. And we were having these conversations, and so that was the ask that they were going to make was not just can we have a school, but with the government, which the government is the only one that will give out land for these kind of things, would the government be willing to give us land to be able to build a school in Ethiopia? And so we're heading out on this trip, and it is a big deal trip. I got these 3 churches that we're hoping is gonna partner with NIO, but we also have this opportunity where we're gonna sit down with government officials and we're gonna ask them the possibility about them giving Missions of Hope land. Now here's what the interesting thing that happened. We get on a plane and we fly to Minneapolis. I get to Minneapolis, and this was when, remember a week ago when all the snow was happening? We fly to Minneapolis, and we land in Minneapolis, and all of our Midwest people that are supposed to meet us in Minneapolis, all their flights get canceled. So all those people's flights get canceled, and we're thinking, they're not gonna make it. What are gonna happen? Well, we reroute them real quickly through Atlanta, and we're just hoping, we're trying to get these people to to Nairobi and to Ethiopia, and they made it fine. Like they got on a plane and they made it fine. They went to Atlanta, they got there like 5 hours before they were supposed to get there in Nairobi. Us, on the other hand, we get a delayed flight in Minneapolis, which causes us to get to Paris late. We get to Paris, we have 50 minutes to get across the airport. We don't even hardly make it off the plane in 50 minutes. We show up at our gate, flight's gone. So we're there. Then they say, okay, we want you to run over here and jump on a flight to Amsterdam. We run over there to get on a flight to Amsterdam. That one gets canceled. So we get another flight that goes to Amsterdam, and we finally make it to Amsterdam, and they get us on the last flight to Nairobi. We walk in the last flight to Nairobi. We walk up to the gate, and somehow everybody else has figured out that this flight isn't going. There's nobody there. And we're like, what happened? Mechanical issues, flight is grounded. So we spend a night in Amsterdam. We get ready to come back and get our flight the next morning, and what happens? They're like, we don't have your reservation. And at this point, we're kind of joking around. If one more thing happens, just send us home. Just send us home. But I can't go home because I'm supposed to be leading this trip with these people, and the Mohi stateside rep is with me. So all our people we've taken over there, they're already in Nairobi. I call my buddy, I'm like, hey bro, you're leading, so figure it out. Mohi will take great care of you. We finally get to Nairobi about 30 hours later than we were supposed to get to Nairobi, and I go to get my bag, and guess what? There's no bags. No bags. We go through, a few days of the trip, and I'm going, we are leaving for Ethiopia tomorrow, and I have no bags. I've been like rotating one pair of clothes, like wash them this day and all of that. Finally get our bags the night before we go to Ethiopia, and finally we head off to Ethiopia. And it just reminded me of this principle and this idea. When you just think about the idea that resistance is often proof that you're making progress. You ever notice that in life? Anytime you try to change something, anytime you try to do something that's positive or shift something in your life, what do you usually run into? At some point, you run into resistance. And a lot of times in our life, what we find out is that resistance is actually proof that we're moving forward and we're making progress. Nehemiah chapter 4, interesting. We've tracked through this book so far, and we get to chapter 4, and in chapter 3, what we found out is Nehemiah got to Jerusalem, he inspires the people, and in chapter 3, what the people do is they say, Nehemiah, we're gonna rebuild these walls with you. And he takes every family, location by location, like right where they live next to the wall, and that's their section, and they begin to rebuild the wall. They begin to rebuild the wall. In chapter 4, here's what we find out. As soon as they start doing the work, resistance shows up. Chapter 4, starting verse 1, says, when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became very angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews. And in the presence of his associates in the army of Samaria, he said, what are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from the heaps of rubble, burned as they are? Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, what are they building? Even a fox climbing up on it would break down their walls of stones. It's interesting that you look at this part of the passage, you got Tobiah and you got Sanballat, who were Persian leaders in the area. And as soon as they begin to see what was happening with Jerusalem and the progress that was being made, they show up to try to stop the work, which is interesting Because if you think about where Nehemiah was, Nehemiah didn't run into resistance when he started praying. We go back to chapter 1. What did Nehemiah do? He spent 3 to 4 months actually praying. And he spent 3 to 4 months planning what he was gonna do. He spent time getting ready to go make an ask of the king. He asked the king. He doesn't face any resistance when he's praying, when he's planning, even when he makes the ask of the king. He doesn't even face resistance when he shows up to Jerusalem and begins to motivate the people. Where does Nehemiah face resistance? When he starts the work. He faces resistance as soon as he starts the work. And that's usually what happens with us. We say we want to get in shape or we want to change something with our body. When we start talking about it, we start thinking about it, we don't face resistance. When do you face resistance? You face resistance after that first workout when you can hardly walk the next day, right? I mean, that's when we start facing resistance. And then as we continue to work out and we're continuing to be sore, and we've got to decide, are we gonna keep going with this? It's the same when you're parenting. You wanna change something in your parenting with your kids. You don't face resistance when you talk about it. You face resistance when you start doing it and they start reacting. There's so many things in our life that resistance, here's the thing, resistance doesn't fight our intentions. It fights our momentum. It doesn't fight our intentions because intentions we're hoping, we're thinking about doing something. What it does is it fights our momentum when we actually start acting. When we actually start doing something. You track through chapter 4 and then chapter 6, we see resistance at every turn for Nehemiah. There's 3 voices of resistance that we see. Number 1 is criticism. Sanballat and Tobiah, they show up and they begin to mock him. They begin to mock them, they begin to say it to the people, they begin to laugh at them, they begin to push back on them. They're not giving feedback, they're trying to crush their confidence. And here's what criticism does. Criticism attacks our identity. Like if you just think about it in your life, we've all faced criticism. Usually when we're trying to change something, it may be something that we're trying to change for the positive in our own life or something we're trying to change in something we lead. And what will happen is criticism shows up and it begins to say things. It will mock us and say, hey, you've tried that before. Or hey, you're too young. Or hey, you're too old. Or hey, I don't know if this is the best idea. And they begin to criticize. And what criticism begins to do is it tries to attack our identity and keep us from doing the best thing. Keep us from staying on that wall and doing the work. Now, what's hard about criticism is with criticism, a lot of times there's a shred of truth in criticism. Like if you think about it, with the Israelites, Sanballat and Tobiah, they said, hey, you're not strong. As Israelites, you're not strong. You're just living in ruins. There's a whole lot of work still to be done. You're not gonna finish this in one day. And there was truth in every single one of those things. Criticism is the enemy's way of shaming us and trying to convince us that our past defines our future. Sanballat and Tobiah looked at the Israelites and saying, this past that you've been living in will define what your future is going to be. Sometimes for us, when we dive in and we try to make changes in our life, criticism pushes us in a way where we begin to believe what the critics begin to say about what we used to be or what we aren't, what we're not. And here's the interesting thing about God. When God looks at us, God will never tell us what we're not. He always tells us what we are. He's the creator who created us, and what God looks at us with is our potential and always says, this is who I created you to be. And what's interesting with Nehemiah, what does he do when he faces criticism? What Nehemiah does when he faces criticism, he does what godly leaders do. He doesn't argue with the critics. What he does is he gets on his knees and he prays. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 4 through 6, it says, hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over to the plunder. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. 11 times, we said this last week, 11 times in 13 chapters, Nehemiah faces opposition, he faces difficulty, he faces criticism, he faces some type of resistance. And every single time, what does Nehemiah do? He doesn't fight the critics, he doesn't argue with the critics. What he does is he hits his knees and he begins to pray. And he realigns himself with God. He prays and he takes the noise and he turns it into dependence. And while the critics are still talking, the people rebuilt the wall until half its height. It's interesting, when we were there in Kenya in September, they were talking about this opportunity to go to Ethiopia. And one of the things that was said constantly to Mohi is nobody gets into Ethiopia. Like there's so much government regulation, there's so much red tape, nobody gets in. No school that does religion, that does education and does humanitarian work will ever get into Ethiopia. And you know what Mohi's response was? Well, let's just pray about it and see what happens. And they prayed, and they prayed, and they continued to pray, and every single hurdle was overcome. Every single problem and issue with the government was overcome. They are the first, the way Ethiopia works is you can be a religious organization, registered as a religious organization, or registered as a humanitarian organization. Humanitarian organizations cannot teach religion, and religious organizations cannot give food, medication, any of that. Can't do it. Mohi is the first group that has dual registration. Like they prayed, and then God provided the opportunity and provided the right people to connect with the right people. And right now is a situation where Ethiopia, for the first time, has a Christian prime minister. And so when they looked at, is they said, you know what, Mohi might just be the one guinea pig that we could use to change the whole system of the whole country. And you look at that and you say, how's that happen? The only way that happens, I asked Wallace and Mary, the missionaries there, I said, how does that happen? They said, the only way that happens is through prayer. It's through praying and God opening doors. What do you do when you face criticism, when you face resistance, when you face difficulty? Instead of fighting back against the critics, what did Nehemiah do? He got on his knees and prayed. He got on his knees and he prayed. And what did the people do? The people rallied around him and they built the wall till half its height. When you face resistance, man, the number one best thing that we can do is get on our knees and pray and allow God to open doors for us. Criticism attacks your identity. Go on from that, and what you see is the voice change. When criticism didn't work, the next was discouragement. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 10 through 12 says, meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there's so much rubble that we can't rebuild the wall. Also, our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and plot and put an end to the work. Then the Jews who lived near came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. Did you catch it? They didn't lose their faith. They just lost their energy. They just got tired. They said, hey, we're exhausted. We're tired. What discouragement does is discouragement attacks our energy. Criticism attacks our identity, but discouragement attacks our energy. And what usually happens is discouragement hits in the middle. You ever notice this? You start something and there's always the excitement of starting something. We start this 52-day challenge, which I hope you're staying with it and you're on track. But at the beginning, everybody's excited. It's like, this is working, this is great, I'm making some progress. But you get into the middle and schedules change, or you get sick, or something happens, or difficulty happens. What happens is in the middle, that's where exhaustion and fatigue begin to set in. And when exhaustion and fatigue set in, what happens is we get discouraged. You see, in the middle, you see even what the people said. The people said, we're sitting in the middle, all this rubble. There's so much rubble. You see, what happened is they started the work and they were excited. They get into the middle, and what happens is they get exhausted. They get fatigued. And what fatigue and exhaustion cause us to do is cause us to forget all the work that has been done, and causes us to focus on all of the work that still needs to be done. Looking at all of the work that still needs to be done, and not actually focusing on, hey, all the progress that we've actually made. Sometimes we just get in those moments where we just say, discouragement attacks our energy, and we just get to the point where we say, not only am I fatigued, not only am I exhausted, I'm burnt out. And when we get burnt out, what it causes us to do is consider quitting. Brene Brown says it this way. She says, exhaustion makes cowards of us all. Exhaustion and fatigue cause us to lose sight of our progress. And many people, there's many of us, never experience what could and should be because we quit in the middle. We come down off of that wall instead of sticking it out. What's Nehemiah do? People are exhausted. What does Nehemiah do? I love these lines. He says in verse 14 through 18, he says, after I looked things over, I stood up and I said to the nobles, the officials, and to the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. When our enemies heard, we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other, and each of the builders wore his sword at his side when he worked. Nehemiah challenges the people. He rallies the people, and he's like in the middle. He said, I know you're exhausted, but here's the deal. If we stop now, we lose everything. We lose the progress. We've got to keep going. And so what they did is they didn't stop building. They pushed through. They adapted. They attacked discouragement with perseverance. They used a shovel in one hand, and they used a spear in the other hand. I love that. They stepped into this work, and they did the work, and they defended themselves together. Nehemiah pushes the people to stay on the wall because he knows that progress always costs something. Like, we think about that in our lives. That's true. Progress always costs something. There's usually pain involved with progress. Sam Shan writes a book that's called Leadership Pain. And he uses this idea about leadership, and he says the level of your progress, or your leadership, he would say, the level of your progress will always coincide with the threshold of your pain. Meaning, perseverance is about pushing through. It's about pushing through the hard times, pushing through the middle to get to where we need to be. And what is in your life right now that you are working toward positive change, needed change in your life, but you're just experiencing some resistance? And if you want to get a breakthrough, you got to push through. You got to push through the pain, push through the difficulty, push through the middle to get to where you should and could be. See, perseverance for Nehemiah looked like just doing one more, just going one more, like stacking one more brick, praying one more prayer, standing his ground for one more day. Nehemiah didn't need to silence the critics, he just needed to outlast them. When you feel like quitting because resistance is high, you just gotta go one more. Where is it in your life right now that you just need to go one more? That you just need to push through one more day? So if criticism attacks our identity, and then if discouragement attacks our energy, if those things don't work in Nehemiah's story, then the enemy shifted its tactics again to distraction. Nehemiah 6:1-2, it says, when a word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies, that I had rebuilt the wall and there was no gap left in it, though up to that time I had not yet set the doors and the gates, Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message. It says, come let us meet together in one of the villages on the plain of Ono. I like that name, the plain of Ono. But they were scheming to harm me. So now it goes from threats to invitations. And the invitation is, hey, Nehemiah, why don't you come down off the wall? Why don't you stop the work? And why don't you just come meet with us? Like an invitation, just come, let's have a conversation about what's going on. It sounds reasonable, but Nehemiah understands this is a trap. It's a distraction. And what does he do? What does Nehemiah do? He understands that distraction attacks your focus. Like if the enemy can't get you to just like stop the work, what he's gonna do is get you to delay it, just to get you distracted from it. He doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs to distract you or delay you. And you think about it, parents, with your kids, what does the enemy sometimes do? He just gets us so busy that we're not as engaged. Husbands, he just needs to get you more concerned with your title or with your job, more concerned than you are with your spouse. Students, more concerned with your friends than your responsibility. Nehemiah gives one of the best leadership responses in the Bible. Here's what he says in verse 3 and 4. He says in chapter 6, he said, I am carrying on a great project and can't come down. Like I'm carrying on a great project and can't come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. I am doing a great work. Church, let me ask you this. In your life, what's the great work that you're about? Like, is there any great work that is so important that you just can't come down? Because what the enemy will try to get us to do is he'll just try to delay us, distract us, to get us to come off the wall, to stop building, to stop pushing through, to stop in the middle and just get down off that wall. What's the great work that you're about that's such a great work, that's such an important priority in your life that everything else has to take a break because of that? Like your focus has to stay focused on that. Nehemiah gets this invitation, and he's not being arrogant by saying, hey, I'm doing such a great work that I can't come down with you. What he's doing is he's being grounded. Like he knew the difference in what was truly important and what was just noise. He knew the assignment, and he protected it with everything he had. So the invitation to come to the valley of oh no, Nehemiah's like, oh no, no. Like I am about such an important work that I'm not coming down off this wall. Self-leadership question. Have you decided what the great work is in your life right now? So important that you can't come down off the wall. Is it your integrity? Is it your family? Is it your purity? Is it your leadership? Is it a relationship that needs some work? If you haven't named your great work, you're gonna find yourself distracted. You're gonna find yourself distracted every time something reasonable calls for your attention. But when you know your purpose, when you realize that going down to explain yourself to critics or to pause for distraction, you realize it's not just an inconvenience, it's a compromise. You see, what Nehemiah teaches us is don't leave that wall. Like don't go down off that wall, because usually resistance is meaning that there's progress being made, that we are headed in the right direction, and we just need to stay on that wall and just go one more. Stack one more brick, pray one more prayer, do one more of whatever that thing is that is like your great work that God's called you to in this moment. So what happens when we stay on the wall? When we just stick to our priorities and we stay on the wall and we pray and we persevere and we stay focused on our purpose. Verses 15 and 16 says this. So the wall was completed on the 25th day of Elul in 52 days. When all our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid and they lost their self-confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of God. Nehemiah pushed the people. He told them, let's stay on this wall. Man, let's persevere. Let's pray. Let's keep fighting against our enemies. Let's keep our focus. And what did they do? They finished the wall in 52 days. Incredible feat of leadership. Incredible feat of perseverance by the people, of pushing through and putting all that energy in. What would happen? What would happen for us if we just decide to stick with it, to pray, to push through, to keep our focus, and to push through and create some habits that begin to start changing some things in our life? God would literally change some things. If you would just stick with it and look at the resistance and say, I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna stay on this wall. I'm gonna keep pushing through one more day. It was interesting. We went on that trip, and I'm telling you, after all of that exhaustion of the travel, of all of that time, I was exhausted. I even got sick while I was over there. I was like, and there was a point at which somebody said on that trip, you know what? God's probably getting ready to do something really cool. God's probably getting ready to do something really big, and with all the resistance that we keep hitting. We go to Ethiopia. We walk into that dump and we see that landfill and we see where these kids live. We go straight from there and we go into the city just a couple blocks away, and we go to this house that has been given over to the people with Mohi, that where 200 of those kids are meeting and they're going to school. And guys, just the picture of these little kids, if we could just grab those pictures and put them back up there, it's just incredible how beautiful those little kids are. Maybe we'll get those pictures up there. You see those kids? And then you can see those kids going to this school, and you see them from going from a dump to right here and getting 2 meals a day. And then you see this picture where we all gathered together, cute little kids. And then the next picture, we all gathered together and we took a big picture with 3 or 4 of those classes of kids together. And it was just pandemonium, but it was beautiful. And it was incredible. And then we went from there and we sat down with some of the Ethiopian, there's a council of churches that works with the government. And we sat down and we were able to have a conversation. We were able to pray with them. And we were able to talk with them and ask them questions. And then after, it was interesting, after this meeting, we were able to, they said, hey, there's a government official that's upstairs in this building. Would you go up with us? And we were able to go up and stand there. The government official couldn't meet with us, but there was an influential official that was standing there with us. And we just began to talk and we just had this conversation and just said, man, have you ever seen what Mohi does in Nairobi? And he's like, no, I've never seen it. I've heard a lot about it. And we really want to be involved and want to help, but I've never seen it. I said, you really need to go. And he said, well, you know what? I'm actually going to be in Nairobi next month. And I was like, you're going to be in Nairobi next month? How about you go and you see this? And he said, man, I would love to go and see it. And so Wallace and Mary got out their phones and they start, this guy is taking the mayor of Addis. This guy is gonna go and he's taking the mayor of Addis, a city of 10 million people. This woman is incredibly influential with the Ethiopian government. And he said, man, if we can get her to go with me, she's committed to go with him. He said, I think we can make that ask for the properties to be able to build the schools. And I'm just sitting there in that moment going, man, all this resistance. And then we have this opportunity, and look at all the things that God's orchestrating with this, that I guarantee you, man, we keep praying, and who knows what we're gonna see that God will do, not just in Kenya, but also in Ethiopia. And it's really interesting. You think about your life. There's things that we try to push through, and God's just saying, hey, man, you keep pushing through, but there is an enemy that always brings this resistance and tries to push back against us. And in that resistance, what do? Man, what we need to do is lean into dependence like Nehemiah did. We lean into prayer. We lean into focusing on that great work that God's given us to do. We just lean into persevering and just not stopping and getting off that wall in the middle, but staying on that wall and saying, you know what? I believe God's with me in this, and God's gonna open some doors, and we're gonna push through, and we're gonna see some change. I'm gonna pray for you, and then we're just gonna sing one more song. And I would encourage you with this. If you feel like you're facing some resistance right now, just let this song, Wind of Mercy, just remind you that, man, God is a merciful God. God's a God that's with you. God is a God that wants to partner with you, and he wants to help you push through and see some spiritual change in your life. He wants to help you push through and see you begin to experience all the potential that he created you to have. So I'm gonna pray, and then let's just stand together and let's sing. Father, we come before you right now. We just want to say thank you for your grace. God, it's pretty incredible to be halfway across the world and see all the things that you're doing working there, and then to see all the things that you're doing working here. Father, I think there's a lot of people individually right now that are saying, hey, I want to push through, but I'm feeling some resistance. Father, remind us as we sing that you love us, that you're with us, and you want to help us push through. God, we love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray.